All right, we are live.
I was camping.
Didn't camp.
Oh, I thought you'd said you were going camping.
Went to Zion, but not camping.
Okay. Did you glamp?
Proper Airbnb. I'm not even trying to pretend like it was a version of camping. It was just staying in a nice place and then going hiking during the day.
The nicest hotel in the entire world is out there. Did you know that?
I did not.
The Amagami, I think it's called, I think it's Zion, somewhere southern Utah. Zion in southern Utah, yeah?
Yeah.
The Amagami, Google it. It is literally, I think, the nicest hotel in the world, the fanciest hotel in the world.
Like when they rate those things, it gets rated that high?
I mean, I think it's one of those ones that's just, it's well beyond expectation.
Well, when it comes to staying in nice hotels, I'm going to take your advice.
Yeah.
You travel with butlers apparently and stay on right-hand point breaks.
I mean, I love me some nice hotel.
I do too.
We've talked about this on air before, right? Like I would totally, if I could stay in a hotel for the rest of my life, I would happily do that.
Really?
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't even, if somebody said, we're going to give you $15 million to buy your dream home. And let's just say that the asset, can't be passed down to the kids. So you can live in this $15 million home, or we're going to give you $50 million to stay in hotels. I would hotel without even blinking an eye.
There was a lot of icons of our youth that were famous for staying in hotels.
Yeah. I mean, the Chateau Marmont used to have longtime residents there. New York had a couple hotels. It used to be a thing.
I can't think of anybody nowadays. Like who's celebrity or writer or...
Yeah. It'd be me. I mean...
It's a thing of the past.
I'm bringing it back if I can. When somebody offers me that 15 mil, yeah.
Keep waiting. I don't know who would make that offer. Who would be the benevolent listener that offers up a hotel life for you?
The Crillon in Paris. Maybe they'll just call me up and say, hey, we heard you talking about wanting to stay in a hotel. We have your room for you.
So would it have to be the same hotel or would you be nomadic and go stay?
I think I'd be semi-nomadic. I think I would do long stays. I would do like 6 months at the Crillon in Paris, probably do 3 or 4 months at the Chateau Marmont in LA, maybe go check out the Amagami, do, here and there. The stinking Ritz-Carlton in Cabo San Lucas is the finest hotel I've ever been to personally.
Is that where you guys stayed on this last trip?
Yeah, we got lucky actually and had met the surfing Nine Palms or Shipwrecks last time we were down there. And there was a nice family next to us in the Palapa and got to talking, and she happens to be the GM of the Ritz and said they just opened. Come on down. She'll give us a rate. And It was incredible.
I had somebody tell me a similar thing. I forget where it was. Like, I work for, it might have been the Ritz.
Yeah.
Or the Four Seasons. And yeah, if you're ever in town, I'll get you a smoking deal.
Yeah.
The smoking deal was still triple my budget.
But
so
still,
I wasn't able to pull it off.
Take advantage of it though. It is worth the triple your budget. Blow it out, David Lee Scales.
How do you feel about Airbnb?
I don't do Airbnb personally.
Why not?
I've only done it a few times because I like hotels.
Okay.
I'm a hotel man.
Got it.
I am a rootsy hotel man.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I like the glam of it.
Sure.
It's chic, but at this point, it's impractical for me, especially like this trip. The kind of purpose of this trip was to get the dog out of the house.
Yep.
She just finished her round of vaccinations, which, by the way, I never had to abide by when I was a kid. If you got a puppy, you took it to the park, you played in the park, no big deal. But apparently there's parvo and there's all these things.
Do people get mad at you or does your dog die?
Your dog dies.
So the whole thing is not to protect other dogs. It's to protect your dog from dying. Got it.
There's all these viruses that the puppy can get, and then they get sick and die. So they have to go through these rounds of vaccines, which take about 2.5 months. I think it's every 3 weeks or something. But we just finished that last Tuesday, so we booked a trip for Wednesday, and we needed a vacation anyways. So we figured Zion, we can get her outside, she can go hike and all that. And an Airbnb was so much more practical.
With the dog, Airbnb is like, that's it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of alluded to it when we were texting, but this property we stayed at was unreal. It was a giant estate. So I guess there's 20 homes or so around an airstrip. So all of the homes have a hangar and they all have private planes. So you could fly in and out of your home. And so the house that we were at was giant and fully enclosed in a gate so the pup could run around wherever she wanted to. But there's a main house and there's 3 casitas. So we just rented one of the small casitas. We didn't have the whole place to ourselves. But they have giant lawn. They had a swimming pool. The dog could go in the pool. Somebody else was renting one of the casitas and they had a dog. So like our dogs were able to play together and have a blast. So
if you had a home like that, with your private airstrip and all whatnot, why are you Airbnb-ing your home?
I have no idea. I thought the same exact thing. So it's clearly not their main home because they weren't even there. And the main house wasn't rented out, just one of the other casitas.
But who needs the $300 a night?
Exactly.
Or whatever it is, if you're super rich already.
Right. Unless maybe kids inherited the home and they don't really want to deal with it and they don't have as much cash flow as their parents had, so they do need the money.
I guess.
If it's just sitting there unoccupied.
Makes sense.
But it is an interesting question.
Yeah. I wonder that about like super uber nice houses in Airbnb.
What about even the ones that they just rent out? You know, like whatever, super nice houses in Newport Beach or Corona Del Mar that rent for like $30,000 a month. It's just insane to me that you would spend $30,000 a month on a house for a rental.
People do.
They do all the time.
Yeah.
It's big business.
I think people have, in my experience with those people, they get a budget for their like moving jobs or whatever. And so they have like a $50,000 a month budget for housing that they have to spend.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go cheaper than that, but they don't get to pocket the excess.
So what I've realized more and more in my life is that people have a lot more money than I ever anticipated and a lot more people.
Yep.
And even just things like driving along PCH, like I went to Bob McKnight's house one time and it's in Emerald Bay. I don't think this is a big secret, but it was in Emerald Bay.
It's one of the nice on the cliff up there.
And so you pull in and it's like, okay, this is an amazing house. I get it. He owns Quicksilver. This is an international brand everybody knows. And this makes sense that Bob McKnight would live here. This is only one of 200 homes in this neighborhood. Who are the other 199? And then this neighborhood butts up right next to another neighborhood and another and another and another from Corona Del Mar through Laguna down through
a wash and cash,
thousands and thousands and thousands of homes of people whose names you'll never hear or know.
Sure.
And my mind's just blown away. And this is just one small stretch of coastline. I mean,
money.
An expensive stretch of coastline.
It's a moneyed stretch.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
My mind is always blown.
My mind gets blown similarly when I pass an office building. I think I've talked about this on air before too. And I look up at that office building and now I don't have to wonder what they're doing anymore because nobody's there thanks to COVID. But before I thought, what do people do when they're working? Like, it just mystifies me. I don't like, are they sitting on the computer? Are they like doing math? Like what happens in big offices? I don't work in one.
No, I don't
think I've ever been in one.
It does boggle the mind.
Yeah.
And because certainly in cities, there's just endless number of those buildings and each little window probably represents 3 or 4 offices,
people.
Or people or whatever. And it's just millions of people.
Been working.
But I don't think so to answer your question, I think they're screwing around most of the time.
I mean, is that what's happening?
If you had to go sit under fluorescent lights indoors for 8 hours a day, I think you'd be productive for 2 of those hours.
Yeah. I mean, Office Space more or less taught me everything I know about
totally
working in an office. And it seems like they were productive less than 2 hours a day.
Which is why I think forward-thinking companies are not adopting that model.
Okay, so if you're a worker in one of those places, you're productive, let's say you're an insurance manager or something, right? Like something, it's not your dream job, but it pays well enough. You got to work 2 or 3 hours a day filling paperwork. Are you happy? Like, are you kicking your feet up, playing video games on your phone? Would it provide joy? I feel that I would get joy out of skirking work.
Yeah. Like that part you might.
Yeah.
But I don't think the job brings you joy.
No, the job wouldn't bring me joy,
Right.
but not working while getting paid to work would, I think, bring me a vast amount of joy. I'd go home and just say like,
it's funny. This actually
day.
dovetails with so many of the topics that I had for today's show.
Great.
So I don't mind doing a deep dive on kind of the theme of like earning or choosing your path in life, choosing your passion versus earning, or can you do both? So I think that to answer your question, you would get a lot of joy out of bilking that company out of $200,000 a year.
Sure.
Without really working that hard.
Yep.
For 6 months.
Yeah.
And after 6 months, you would think, this money hasn't radically changed my happiness, and I'd rather just do something that I enjoy doing. I am dwindling. My life is
dwindled.
Yeah. And it's going by rapidly, and I'd like to do something that I'm passionate about. And at the end of all of this, if all that I have to show for it is money, then I'd rather just be maybe writing for you or surfing for somebody else,
I hear you. But I mean, I always wonder what else you could do in those hours you're not being productive at work.
You could actually write.
Yeah, exactly. But also I've been in situations where I was unable to write just because it was oppressive because of the fluorescent lighting. Sure, you're left alone, but like mentally you can't get in the headspace.
Yeah. We're finicky creatures that way.
We are
delicate
little sissies.
Yeah. I think so.
I'm sure so many listeners tough it out in some lousy job.
They're listening to us right now while they're sitting in their office.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about money. I think the only thing that money really does, I don't think it makes you happier. I think you could be happy without it. You could be happy with it, or vice versa. That's kind of a predisposition more than it is the money. But I think what money does, it allows you to pursue things that you want to pursue. If you talk about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, initially you're concerned with food and shelter and water, right?
Yep.
And so if that's all that you're ever concerned about, you can't ever think about creatively expressing yourself or maybe falling in love or something like that. But so if you look at kids growing up in impoverished situations in America, like they don't have the luxuries of doing some of the things that you do, like spending 90 minutes a week vamping on a podcast. You know what I mean? Like they're concerned about how to get that next, just how to get ahead, how to have security, how to feel safe. They're not even concerned about a 401k. Like they're just concerned about getting by. And so that level of kind of pressure and stress wears you out and it makes you sick and all those sort of things. So back to my original point is I think that money, once you have maybe property, once you don't have to worry about paying for college, once you have a 401k and you have these kind of security blankets where you can always fall back and not worry about not being able to feed yourself, then you can start to think about, well, what do I actually want to do for a living? What are my interests? What can I pursue professionally? And maybe those things lead to happiness in some way, but I don't think that the money itself ever does.
Do you look down at your nose on people pursuing their passion fruitlessly? Like people who have enough somehow, I don't know, a financial safety net such that they can go and, hey, I'm going to be a blank, right? I'm going to be whatever my passion thing is. But not succeeding at that, not even remotely succeeding at that, but continuing to try. Do you think, okay, good on you for really going out and trying? Or do you think give up?
I don't look down my nose at them. I look at them with a bit of jealousy or envy that they have that luxury in life, but I don't say give up.
Yeah.
Unless it's pretentious. Like if they're trying to be a painter and their painting's awful and nobody's ever wanted anything that they've ever done.
I'll give somebody trying to be a painter all kinds of credit. The people I don't like to give credit to are people who are trying to act, but not even like film roles, like commercial roles, right? Like trying to go audition for the Purina dog chow commercial and not getting that and continually failing at booking any commercial gigs to me seems like the worst thing ever. Cause it's so what you get it. So what you get to act in a Depends ad. It's not art. It's straight commerce. It's bad commerce. Why not just go get a job at that point? I mean, if that's your deal because you want to be an actor.
Yeah. I don't know anybody in that situation.
Really?
Yeah.
It's chock full.
Right. But of trust funders or of just people trying to make ends meet?
I mean, people, probably not trust funders, just people acting. But really, not trust funders at all. People who are really, teaching acting classes or doing whatever they can to get by so that they can go audition for, Folgers commercials.
Right.
So that they can, get that one big national spot. And then I guess have more time to act, I suppose.
Even with like films and good quality films that would be considered art, there's still terrible actors that somehow make it into that business just based off of their looks or some random stroke of luck.
It's true.
That are like, don't have an appreciation for the art form at all, or don't come from a classic training.
Kristen Stewart.
She was the Twilight
girl who went on to Charlie's Angels. She's done
she did Charlie's Angels.
She did the new one, the remake.
She is so wooden.
Yeah.
Like she expresses zero emotionality. I do not understand why people like her.
She's going to be Princess Di now.
What?
She's going to be Princess Diana and having to learn the accent and all of it.
Crazy. Do you like her?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm sure she's fine as a person, but I very much dislike her acting.
So Robert Pattinson,
yeah,
from Twilight, I used to think that way about, but the guy's got range.
He's gone on to do some interesting film.
He's done some really good films.
Yeah.
The Willem Dafoe one last year.
Yep.
I forget what it was called.
He was a creep.
The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
I watched him in something yesterday, a new movie on Netflix that I think The Devil All Around Us or something like that. It was an adaptation from a book.
Good.
It was fantastic. Yeah. So
speaking of adaptations for books and acting, I like how we're just ping-ponging here to Barbarian Days.
This was in my notes.
See?
Here we go. Stephen, is it
Gagin?
Gagin?
Yeah, Gagin.
Gagin.
Yeah.
Stephen Gagin is penned or contracted to write and direct for Amazon Studios.
Barbarian Days.
The William Finnegan Pulitzer Prize winning memoir. Gagin he wrote Syriana.
Yep.
He wrote Traffic.
I think he wrote and directed Syriana.
He wrote and directed Syriana, wrote Traffic, which are both kind of tedious films, but excellent.
Syriana is
excellent.
One of my favorites.
A fat George Clooney.
Yeah. Broke his neck. Did you know George Clooney really broke his neck filming that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, when he got kicked over in the chair, he actually broke a vertebrae in his neck.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Torture.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Did they have to cancel filming, or do you just?
I think he was in pain.
A broken neck could be either paralyzed and die,
sever your spinal cord. No, I think he broke chipped a vertebrae or something. There was some kind of, but that was allowed to be categorized as broken neck. Yeah, I think they had to push off filming for a minute and whatnot.
He should claim that more frequently.
I know.
I would really wear that like a badge of honor.
Broke my neck while filming.
Totally.
Yeah.
He also directed Gold, the Matthew McConaughey film, I think 2 years ago. Did you ever see that?
I did.
It was good.
It was good. Yeah.
The first half was really good.
Yeah.
Second half kind of fell apart. And then wrote and directed Dr. Dolittle last year with Robert Downey Jr. Never saw that. But it's the guy's got street cred for sure.
Big time.
What are your thoughts on this?
I'm excited.
Are you?
Yeah. I love Gagin's films generally. Particularly, I suppose, Traffic and Syriana. I'm curious as to what part of the story gets adapted. Because, to be honest, can I be real honest with you? I think I've been honest about this before. I never finished Barbarian Days.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I didn't know that.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got about halfway through. Nothing against the book. But I suppose I just got bored. I'm going to be honest. I feel like, I could see how Finnegan's journey would be interesting to somebody who didn't know anything about surf. But to me, I just felt I know all this stuff. This is, what's new?
It's funny that you say that because I was thinking of other surf films, movies about surfing, like Hollywood movies about surfing. I lost interest in even going to them after I got out of high school. I used to, in my youth, North Shore would be on KTLA, Channel 5,
and you'd
all the time.
Yeah.
Like every Saturday around noon, it would be on. I watched it every time I saw it on. And then the Endless Summer 2, I remember watching endlessly. In God's Hands came out when I was a junior in high school.
Did you go to the theater? Did you get your popcorn and your Coke?
Me and my buddies made a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
We're just like, Shane Dorian, are you kidding me? Let's go watch that. Shane Dorian was at the height of his professional surfing like powers at that moment.
I drove 3 hours each way to go see Endless Summer 2.
No way.
3 hours each way.
To Portland?
I was like playing in Salem or something.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like at an independent the art house theater?
I don't know. That was like the only place it was playing in Oregon. And so, yeah.
Did you have to call Movie Phone to find out?
I'm sure I did. Movie Phone. Yeah. Or maybe I saw it. I don't know how I knew it was in Salem, but yeah.
Well,
all the way.
So that pilgrimage for you or me going to see In God's Hands was like, it was a cultural moment. The movie was, even at the time, I knew the movie was terrible. I've never rewatched it since.
In God's Hands is, I keep thinking it's so bad that it might be good. And then I'll go watch a little clip of it and then remember that it's just really so bad.
I've never rewatched it since. I should.
Go watch a little
exercise.
Shane Dorian's acting is a level of awful that I think should, I don't know why it doesn't get mentioned. There's something off about it where it's just not, it is so bad, but it's not in the bad that I want to watch it again and again because it's so bad kind of zone. So but I don't know what at all would be even remotely redeeming about it.
I wonder if he thought that was the beginning of a real promising Hollywood career.
For sure. I mean, he had like dreamboat good looks. He must have. Like, why else? Why else would you act? I mean, he acts in that movie. He's not
right.
Being. I mean, he's Shane Dorian, I suppose. But or is he? I think he has a character name.
No, he's definitely playing a character.
Yeah. But he's acting.
Yeah. Or he's trying.
Yeah, it's really good.
He's ended up just being a terrible version of Shane Dorian.
Yeah.
So Point Break, I watched all the time, but everything after that, like
You're
the
done.
remake of Point Break, I never even saw. Blue Crush, I don't think I even saw. Soul Surfer, I saw years after the fact. Chasing Mavericks, I watched 2 or 3 months ago for the first time ever.
How bad is Chasing Mavericks?
To be honest, I was kind of coming and going out of the room. I didn't sit down and watch it, and I wasn't offended by it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We had to go. It was a surfing magazine when I was working for Surfing Magazine. The studio invited up the staff of Surfing Magazine for a private screening on the studio lot. I can't remember which studio it was. And I remember watching it, sitting there amongst my Surfing Magazine cohorts, thinking this is the worst thing ever. And then I said something to that effect afterwards, like when they were like, okay, what did everybody think? Like trying to get the, and I said something snide, but then everybody gave me dirty looks and people seemed that they liked it. And I was like, whoa.
That's hilarious.
So the fact that it did not offend you, maybe I'm wrong on Chasing Mavericks.
No, I don't remember thinking it was, I guess I went into it thinking it was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Because all these other examples I just gave are awful. And so that maybe it just over delivered my expectation.
I don't know how. The guy who plays Jay looks like such a turkey the entire time.
Really?
With his curly hair and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's really bad.
What about Breath, the Tim Winton?
Never. I started it, and I was too bored to. I mean, that thing was watching paint dry. Did you watch it?
I liked it.
It was.
Here's where we diverge then officially.
It was so boring. It was well acted. I liked the Simon, whatever, Australian actor, and the two kids were engaging, but just the story, I was just like, literally, they could not have made a more boring film.
Okay. Then we need to tease this apart because for the reasons you think it's boring, I think is why I liked it.
You thought it was meaningful.
Well, yes, but that's not really it. I think like when we look at Barbarian Days and what will ultimately make it good versus not, how do you make a good surf film? And I think that it needs to not be about surfing.
Sure.
And Breath wasn't really about surfing.
So is Barbarian Days about finding yourself?
No, that's the problem. I think the book is about surfing.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was like, I'd have to reread it to really feel committed to that idea. But I think the book is about surfing. And so they're going to make a movie about surfing and it's just going to be bad.
Gagan's a big surfer. He's buddies with Travis Foray. Speaking of surfing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Travis Foray goes and hangs out with
Funny.
Stephen Gagan every now and again.
Why? How?
I can't remember.
Gagan read his What Youth or something?
No, because I think it was pre-What Youth. I think Gagan has always been, I mean, I think he's a surfer. And I don't know how he and old Trav Frey got hooked up, but yeah, I think they've worked on projects together and whatnot.
Well, good for Trav. Maybe he can get a consulting fee out of this.
Well, and maybe he could figure out how to make the film. Yeah, you're right. Barbarian Days is about surfing, but is it? I never finished it, so I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. I mean, it's been years since I read it, but I'm almost 100% certain it is. With any memoir, there's going to be a lot of kind of life philosophy and struggles of whoever he was dating at that time and leaving them to go surfing. But the book is about surfing.
Sure. And so does it try to peel back the layers then? Does the film peel back the layers on this is a surfing life?
I don't think you can do that successfully in a film. Yeah. I honestly don't think that that's interesting enough to make a film out of. And I would argue with even maybe like The Sopranos, like great television, great film. I don't think The Sopranos was about the mob.
No, it was about family.
It's about family. And then these negotiations you make and these compromises and you compromising your own morality and all that sort of stuff. And it's set in the environment of the mob, which makes it very compelling for anybody who's not from that world. But so I think that's what they need to do with that's been the misstep of any surf film previously. But again, with Barbarian Days, if it is about surfing, I don't know where the interest is.
Who plays Finnegan?
Great question. I looked at Stephen Gagan's face. I was like, dude, he kind of looks like Finnegan.
Yeah.
Not that he acts, but because you would need multiple actors because the book covers decades.
Youth to, I mean, when does it end? How old is he? Is he in New York working and trying to surf?
Yeah, it is, I think.
Okay.
Who did you think of an actor?
No, the only actor I thought of was Richard Gere, but Richard Gere is way too old.
Yeah.
But to me, Finnegan's got the silver fox thing a bit. But again, he was a handsome youth, if I recall, flipping through the pictures.
He's tall, thin, kind of flat-faced, kind of narrowed eyes, like always look like he's squinting at the horizon. Yeah, I'm not sure who the actor would be. I wish I would have thought about that in advance. What about Ed Norton?
Ed Norton, but I think too old still. That's the problem, is I always think of actors that I grew up watching, which all of them are too old.
Totally.
Like maybe Robert Pattinson could do it.
Yeah, he could do it.
The question, Finnegan, the part that I read of Barbarian Days, the way he writes his own character, he's not funny. He's not particularly it's really a well-written, obviously won the stinking Pulitzer. It's a well-written book, but I never got a feeling, again, I finished early, but who Finnegan was. And so is the actor, I mean, is he brooding? Is he, what's the style? What is the defining personality trait of the character Bill Finnegan in the book Barbarian Days?
Could there be, or has there ever been, a movie where the main character is almost, neutral, and it's all of the other characters that they encounter that become the storylines? Because to me, the book was more about the places.
Sure.
I vividly remember Madeira. I vividly remember his time in San Francisco, and Doc Renneker was really the character in that scene. And so could it just be this neutral person passing through these places, and the places are full of color and personalities?
I don't think so, because I think the whole point of
you need a protagonist.
You need the vehicle that the viewer sees this world through. So Finnegan's going to have to, but that's my question, is what is his character? He wasn't antagonistic to anybody, right? No. He wasn't getting in fights. No. He wasn't particularly poetic or romantic about stuff, right? Nope. And so what is his film character feel like? 'Cause it's got to feel like something.
You have to have conflict as well. There's no conflict in the book. So the protagonist needs to have an arc of something that they are struggling with and ultimately overcoming. there should be an antagonist, somebody that he's in conflict with, an adversary. And so that could be his own pursuit with like living this fanciful nomadic life versus him being called to like sit down and live a more normal, predictable life.
I mean, if Traffic or Syriana is any, like those films jumped all over the place, right? It wasn't the narrative through line. There wasn't one narrative through line. Remember in Syriana and in Traffic, there was like 4 or 5 different stories happening at the same time that would both weave in and out, but then some of them would never weave in and out of the other ones. I wonder if there's a way where he Syriana's it, where you have like multiple parts of Finnegan's life playing out at the same time.
Yeah. So now, you know what I'm thinking would be a really interesting a book adaptation that follows a lot of these things that we're talking about was Wild by Cheryl Strayed.
Yeah.
With Reese Witherspoon.
Yep.
Did you ever see that?
I never did.
It's phenomenal. First of all, it's phenomenal. Like as a film, it's not so good.
I got the feeling from it that it was Eat, Pray, Love.
No.
I love to hate watch Eat, Pray, Love.
I watched it for the very first time, I would say 6 months ago.
Oh man, if Eat, Pray, Love is on a plane, I will watch it every time just because I hate every scene so deliciously.
Yeah.
I just get to sit in like that wonderful feeling of hatred.
Yeah. It is
a terrible, like she's a hateable person. Every cliched adventure she goes on is utterly hateable. Like the cunt eating pasta. I mean, it's so wonderfully hateable. Every part of it.
Cliche is the right way to put it for sure. Well,
I got the feeling that Wild
is nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. But it does exactly what you're doing in terms of jumping back and forth in time and almost in conflict. Like, but it weaves it together really, really beautifully and poetically. And it's based on a book, and the book is a memoir. There's a lot of parallels here, actually, the more I think about it.
Do you think that the World Surf League will get involved in the promotion and whatever of Barbarian Days, the film?
If they're still in business at the time?
Do you think they will try to attach themselves to it? Like, this is us. Hey, guys.
Yeah,
this is our thing.
So there's no chance that they do a deal with Amazon Studios, I would say, to actually make that official. But if it has great success, I could absolutely see them promoting it as part of their world. Chiming in, trying to get the spotlight of the Pulitzer and the film and all of it. Like, this is surfing. Totally. It's us. Totally. Now let's talk about, there's more often than not, books being adapted to movies get lambasted for not being as good as the book. Yep. What are your thoughts on that? Can you make, if the book is actually good, which I think it is, do you think the film could ever fully represent the quality of the book? For sure. I mean, okay. I think there's plenty of cases where, I'm trying to think one off the top of my head, but where I know that people dislike the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Terry Gilliam directed, Johnny Depp starred, but for example, Benicio. Yeah, Benicio. I liked the movie. I didn't think it was high art, but I also liked the book, and I felt they both existed separately from each other in a way. But I think there are examples where the movie is much better than the book. Like stinking The Godfather. I mean, I never read Mario Puzo's books, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here. But I think the book was written after the movie was, like they had the screenplay. They wanted to do a movie about Italian, the mob. Yep. And they had the screenplay. And there was this track record of New York Times bestsellers, basically, like influencing the box office. So after they had the screenplay, or at least the idea for the film, they went and wrote the book. They then hired Mario Puzo to write the book, and then they paid. They actually the studio went and bought a ton of copies just to get it up New York Times bestseller list, knowing that the film would be coming out. I never knew that. I'm pretty sure. You'd have to look it up, but I'm almost... fantastic little fun fact right there. But it was at a time where you could just... manipulate? Yeah. Yeah, you could totally just like manipulate all of it. But I'm almost 100% sure that's the case. That's fantastic. And the book did come out before the movie, obviously. But but it was like they agreed to the movie, they greenlit it, they hired the screenwriters, they outlined the movie, and then they're like, hey, by the way, get Puzo to go do this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think the book's great.
So that's why.
Yeah. But Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
I don't know. I never read the book, but the phenomenal film.
Great film.
I would argue Fight Club is as good as the book.
Did you read Fight Club?
Yeah.
Fight Club, the movie. Yeah, I never read Fight Club, so I can't speak to it. But
Did you like the movie?
I love the movie. Of
So
course.
I watched the movie first, and then I went back and read the book, and then liked it so much I read all of his other books.
Chuck.
Chuck Palahniuk, which are some are better than others.
Yeah.
But the movie absolutely is as good as the book, I would say. The Shining, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, all of those Lord of the Ring films. I never read those books either, but I guess those would be equal. So yeah, there's examples for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope nothing but the best.
I'm very excited. Very excited.
I would like to. I hate that turnaround time for this stuff is like years.
2 years, I know.
It's a nightmare.
But I don't know. The fact that he's tapped to both direct and write, maybe this one will go quick.
Maybe
I'll bang out a script.
And Amazon Studios too. I feel like that streamlines the process.
Sure.
Because they're production and distribution and everything.
Sure.
So, by the way, there was a fly buzzing around here right now. I kept trying to. Not did you see me shooing it away?
Fly on the head. How epic was that,
dude? We've been doing this podcast for years now. We've never once had a fly on our head. What are the odds
that it just like it's sat around for so long too? I mean, it was at first I thought it was a fly on my computer screen. Right. I was watching it on my computer and I was like, wait, that's. And then I thought this is not real, but it was real.
So last night, vice presidential debate. A fly landed on Mike Pence's head and stayed there virtually the whole night.
Yeah, it was like a good 2 or 3 minutes.
So here's what I don't understand. We are such archaic Neanderthals. I can't take the guy seriously if he has a fly on his head.
Everybody's like, ha, ha, ha. Like right away. That's what it turned into.
I immediately get reverted into making fart jokes and like high school humor. Because he has a fly in his head, why can't my brain just like ignore that and listen to the words coming out of his mouth?
It was a huge fly though. I don't know how he didn't feel it on his head.
Because he's like shellacked.
But it was a big fly.
I know.
I mean, any fly big enough to be clearly seen as a fly to the viewer at home is a big fly.
He has white hair and a black fly though.
Yeah. I mean, sure. But it was like a fly like that.
Yeah. So, that was my first thought. My second thought is, can't they just put it on the prompter? Like,
hey, you have a fly in your head.
Or in his ear. Yeah. They're mic'd, right? Like, just say, hey, brush your hair real quick. There's a fly in it.
Or even the moderator could have said something funny. Like she could have paused, said, Mr. Vice President, just FYI, there's a fly in your head or something.
So I thought about that too, but would require a tremendous amount of self-awareness of the moderator. The moderator's so confused that they're going to do something wrong.
It's true. But I mean, I guess it all comes back like everything does. Are you one of the people who likes for people to tell you that you have something on your face or whatever? Or would you prefer just people mind their own business?
I can handle the truth.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Okay.
Tell me if I have something in my teeth, especially if I'm debating in front of the nation.
Yeah. It's true.
I mean, I suppose the moderator just was hoping that fly will get late. Or
I mean, who's ever seen a fly land and stay that long? The fly must have got stuck in his hair or something, like in the shellac.
So that's a good point. So I was thinking it would be the ultimate like diabolical move from the Democratic troll working for the Democratic Party to be like, how do I really set things off the rail? Well, we could get a bomb to blow up the Republican Party, or we could, no, that's too much. We could scramble the audio so that the American public doesn't listen. No, wait a second.
A fly.
We're going to drone a fly in and just place it there, and it'll disrupt the entire narrative.
I mean, it really completely did.
It did.
I mean, that was it.
And it was, there's no victim, there is a victim, but there's no like, the Republicans can't point at the Democrats and be like, you threw us off by X, Y, and Z. It was just a complete random act of nature.
That happened to go on Mike Pence's hair. Yeah.
Hilarious, though.
It was really funny.
I mean, this whole thing has reached epic circus level comedic. It's unbelievable.
Did you watch Bulworth ever?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I need to rewatch it.
Yeah. I mean, it's becoming comedic like Bulworth, I think. I loved Bulworth, though, the movie.
I need to rewatch that for sure.
Warren Beatty.
Was Halle Berry in that?
Yeah, Halle Berry was like it's probably totally inappropriate now. It's probably all kinds of poor race relation things, but...
A young Halle Berry?
Yep.
I mean, the only thing hotter than current Halle Berry...
Is young?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Maybe current is actually hotter.
What about Bond to Halle Berry when she comes out of
dude.
in her orange bikini?
She's unbeatable.
Yeah.
She is absolutely in a class all around.
Yep.
Well, so we have a couple of huge news stories, by the way. Surfer Magazine closes.
Done.
I wanted to talk to you about Laird Superfoods IPO. I feel like you guys didn't even write about that.
We did. I think Derek did. Yep.
Okay. But most importantly, Michael Thompson passed away.
This morning,
and
actually.
It was this morning?
Yep. Yeah. This morning,
shoot.
I think 8 a.m. or something this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was yesterday.
No, I mean, I put it up.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be able to read his obits.
Right. I read that in your piece. Okay. So this actually, when I was talking earlier about money and whether it makes you happy or not, it was really kind of thinking about the Michael Thompson story of like pursuing your life's passions and just living recklessly, throwing caution to the wind, Michael Thompson probably burned through fortunes, right? Yeah. Both for brands and probably personally, or taking the more measured path and like having security, but then also, foregoing good times, short-lived peak, like spikes in, I don't know, thrill, let's say. So Matt Warshaw said of Michael Thompson, he'll be remembered in 3 parts: fearlessly charging pipeline, gotcha, and cocaine. Those will be his legacy. You said Michael Thompson will be remembered singularly for never, not ever, pulling a punch. Stories of his generosity, his not yet fully appreciated writing, his fashion anarchy, his ability to pipeline will certainly flow, and I have no doubt when the dust settles, he will be carved into surfing's Mount Rushmore between Duke Kahanamoku and a pack of Laird Hamilton's superfood coffee creamer. But until then, pour out one for an icon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you know about Michael Thompson? What was your time with him?
I mean, Michael Thompson's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, hands down personality in all of this wild little surf world. I met him for the first time a long time ago. I think I was doing something with Jamie O'Brien back in the day, and Michael was, I think, a consultant at that point at the La Jolla Group, which Jamie was surfing for Rusty, I think, and yeah, whatever. So I met Michael there, and but of course Michael's reputation had preceded him, and I was just in awe meeting him. And then through the years, I've chatted with him or interviewed with him and hung out with him a handful of times, and he was just great. I mean, he was exactly what I wanted my surf hero to be, because he's really an anti-hero in so many ways. He, like you said about, burning through fortunes, or even his health at the end, right? Like the way he chose to live, he just didn't pull a punch. He did what he wanted to do. And I was talking to a great designer, or one of the old designers at Gotcha, who said, in that story I wrote about it too, he was looking for some of the early Gotcha stuff and found one where it was just, the tagline was "to hell with the consequences." And it's one thing to say it, and Michael, I think, lived it his entire life. And of course, easy to criticize, right? You can always say, well, he should have taken better care of himself, or he should have done this, or he should have done that. There's something refreshing about a man who just, he just didn't pull it. There was no half step. He just went all in, and that was it.
There is something refreshing about it, and there's something enviable about it, because so many of us compromise the things we want to do for what our responsibilities are. And so to see somebody who lives the way that they want to live is enviable.
Yeah.
You get jealous of it a little bit. And oftentimes those people actually always land on their feet. And it's like, yeah, they burn through a fortune, and then suddenly they strike rich on another idea and they have a fortune again. And you go, what the heck?
And I mean, even with MT, I mean, I think it's, people and friends, I think, are sad that he didn't take better care of himself, especially at the end. Like, he had cancer, I don't know, forever ago. Nobody knows what his treatment was, if he was doing any treatment or anything. Right. And I mean, I think that, I don't know, there's real sorrow around the MT thing also, but I don't know, not like cautionary sorrow. I just feel like the surf world is poorer today than it was, last week.
Yeah, but it's also richer because he was here.
For sure.
That's the thing and so you have to analyze that trade-off. Like,
did you ever chat with MT?
Never.
Oh, man, yeah.
No, I liked that interview you guys did on Beach Grit. I was really hoping that was going to become a series.
Yeah.
Like Bitchin'.
It was. We
did one with Gurr.
Yeah, we had like 4 or 5 of them.
Who else?
It was Gurr, Thompson,
I only remember those.
Biolas, I think, with like the volume thing for a surfboard, finding the volume out or whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think maybe there was only 3.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a great kind of look at where his life was in that moment, as opposed to all of the older stuff that we always kind of see regurgitated. So the one question I have, so that analyzing that thing of like living your life recklessly.
Sure.
I would like to know, did he maintain long-term relationships? Like if you have a long list of like divorces and kids who don't talk to you, then I would have to argue against that type of a lifestyle. But is there a way to do it where now your kids love you as the fun-loving dad and they got to go on adventures with?
I know he has a son, and I think they, from what I understand, there was a breakdown in the relationship, but they got back together at the end.
Which, by the way, lots of people who live their lives on the straight and narrow also have that breakdown with their parents.
Of course.
More than not, actually, that pesky fly. It's crazy. The coincidence. So Richard Branson looks like a guy who's living as reckless of a life as Michael Thompson, except he still has a huge net worth and kids that love him in a 30 or 40 year marriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think there is a way to pull it off.
I mean, and Michael had a long time girlfriend. I mean, ever since I've known him.
Yeah.
So at least I knew him, I think probably, I don't know, 13 or 14 years. Wow, so at least that long. Yeah.
The other question I have, aside from the relationship thing, is suffering in the end. So if the life decisions that you made lead to long-term suffering, and in this case, in the form of cancer, and we see it actually lots of times in the form of cancer, then that would be an argument against it as well.
Of course. I mean, there's plenty of arguments for Michael Thompson. The life that Michael Thompson chose to live is neither healthy nor, enviable. But in Cocaine and Surfing, I wrote that I need Michael Thompson to be Michael Thompson because I'm too much of a chicken to be Michael Thompson, more or less. Like he, as this lion, I don't know. There's just something about him. There was something about him that, continues to captivate me, that I really, truly love. And as sort of, eulogies come in and whatnot. And of course, this is a small surf world, but I for sure want to try to stamp as hard as I can that Michael Thompson is not a cautionary tale. Michael Thompson is an icon who lived as big as he possibly, he lived a life that we're all sort of, or many of us dream about, but are too chicken to go all the way in anything. Agreed. Not just with drugs or with all of that stuff, just anything, right? Like all of us have our beliefs and live up to the point of being kind of comfortable, but then just lives of compromise. I mean, that's how people live. And I just never got the feeling that Michael Thompson compromised ever.
So I fully agree. And so he is that lion out there, and we can actually pull pieces from it that's why I'm asking you all these questions, is like, which parts can we apply to our lives and live without having to risk?
Part of the huge thing, I think, that of his legacy is his generosity. Like all of his friends talk about it. He would walk in with a $3,000 jacket on, And if you said, "Oh, I like that jacket," he was, "Oh, cool, here," and just give it to you.
Amazing.
Like that kind of selfless generosity, which I think probably busted him down at the end too, in terms of just always giving. That's great.
It really is amazing. Back to Clooney.
Yeah.
There was a story about Clooney that I'm pretty sure is true, because I forget who I heard it from, but it was like verified. After he really struck it rich, I think it was after he sold the tequila label.
Okay.
So not that long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and he always had like money, but then he had like tons of money at that point. He held a dinner party for 15 friends from like that he's known for a long period of time. Friends from college and his youth and all that sort of stuff. Dinner party. Each of them left the party with a briefcase with $1 million cash.
That's pretty awesome. See?
So they just went to dinner with their buddy Clooney and like celebrating the good times. Hey, congratulations on your big sale of your tequila brand.
Came home with $1 million each.
Walked out with $1 million cash.
That is awesome. See? That's awesome.
How crazy is that?
Love it.
I know. So I was thinking of who, following Michael Thompson, like who's exited at the exact right time, where they lived that rugged, reckless lifestyle, partied it up, have all of those great experiences and memories, and then shifted into a clean life where they were able to capture all the returns.
I feel so many people do that, right? I feel that's the typical narrative, I think, of you rip one and then you grow up and you stabilize, right?
Who ripped the biggest one and then stabilized the hardest?
What about like Mick Jagger?
Ooh, I was going with another Mick, just to throw it back in your face. Yeah.
But Mick Fanning, his crazy wasn't ever that. He was just like a drunken bogan.
How do we know?
Well,
I think he could have got way more wild than we even know.
Well, for sure. But he wasn't like throwing gotcha style parties. I mean, what Michael Thompson did was legendary.
Right.
Like Mick Fanning was not to that level.
But he did party.
He partied pretty
good. He was
good.
known for partying. Like that was what he was known for. And then he won 3 world titles after the fact.
Sure.
And now is settled down with a kid and lives a pristine lifestyle where all of the youth in Australia like venerate him as the exemplar of morality and discipline and all that.
I'm not going to be able to give it to you just because I don't think that being a drunken bogan is a heavy, like he would have had to.
He was an average Australian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He lived a Gold Coast Australian life and then stopped living that Gold Coast Australian life.
What if we find out he has like 8 kids from that era out of wedlock and like a criminal?
Then I would reintroduce him. Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned Mick Jagger. Eddie Van Halen also passed away.
Yeah.
Sammy Hagar said, a listener of the show, texted me because he had read Sammy Hagar's autobiography, which is funny to me. But he said he said that Sammy Hagar said that in the book, so not post-mortem, but actually maybe this was a quote post-mortem, but he said, though he was a heavy smoker for years and he used to chug Carlo and Rossi jugs of wine, he believes that Van Halen developed throat cancer from a metal guitar pick that he used to frequently hold in his mouth 20 years ago.
I remember reading that the metal guitar pick was what caused it. Or that's the narrative. It's really funny.
How funny is that?
Very
the guy
funny.
like lived the hardest lifestyle of chain smoking and doing everything terrible.
Carlo
but no,
Rossi.
it's this metal guitar pick that I have in my mouth, which actually could be true.
For sure.
You know?
Never know.
Yeah. How funny too that, I guess cancer is never funny.
Yeah.
But Michael Douglas said that he got throat cancer from providing oral on too many women over the years.
That's a standard.
Because
it's the PP or the whatever that PPV.
Human papilloma virus.
that one.
HPV
is what causes throat cancer, I think.
So if a chick has the bad HPV, I think there's multiple HPVs.
Yeah.
And then you go and expose yourself orally, you can get throat cancer from it.
Yep.
Which is a baller move.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to get throat cancer, be like, hey, ate out too many chicks.
From Michael Douglas to just claim it too.
I know.
Problem. Like he was not shy.
He put his hand up. He's like, hey, I have throat cancer from this.
He didn't need,
And his wife's standing there going, What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Catherine Zeta.
Exactly. So rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
So I think about back to the office life that you're talking about.
Sure.
What are those people doing?
Yeah.
And I don't know, resigning yourself to making $70,000 a year with, 3% annual increase or whatever it is for the rest of your life, or living the way that you want to live, throwing caution to the wind, and maybe you make $1 million one year and maybe you make zero the next year. Like, there's no question. You have to throw caution to the wind, right? Like, if that office life that you're talking about, I think it comes with a wife that you start to disdain, in-laws that you're going to spend 40 years going to holiday parties with in-laws that you just like.
But I have to think that a lot of people enjoy, they don't maybe like it, but that it is fulfilling somehow, right? That they are living the life that at some level fulfills them. They're providing a service, right? They're doing, like, their work is,
I think you're right.
An insurance adjuster. They're doing a good job for somebody.
That's the saddest part about this, is that we have become this bland culture that complacency is fulfillment.
But if everybody threw caution to the wind, I don't think that very many people, to be honest, let's just be real frank here. Not everybody should throw caution to the wind.
That's true.
Some people should. If you don't have like a devil may care attitude and a good idea or some kind of ability or talent, then don't throw caution to the wind.
I agree with that. If there is a pyramid of society and like the base of it, we just need people clocking in, clocking out 9 to 5 so that bridges can be built.
Sure.
Oil can get changed in your car.
Important stuff.
Yeah.
It's not sexy.
Trash gets picked up.
Important. Ooh, I'd like to be a trash man.
Would you?
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't?
Well, nowadays the trash man's got it pretty good because a mechanical arm does all the...
I used to want to do like swing on the back of the truck and grab them and throw it in.
Really?
Yeah.
No way, dude.
Really?
I can't think of a worse job.
You get to be in shape. You get to work out. I think I stole this line from my uncle. My uncle always wanted to be a trash man. I thought, what? And then he explained to me, you're outside.
Yeah.
You're working out, or you're, being physically fit. It's not a mental job. So you can think of all the other stuff you want to think about while you're doing it. And then you're done and you have your full brain power when you get home.
Why not do construction then?
Because construction you got to think about. Like, you got to measure twice, cut once.
If you're low enough on the totem pole, you probably don't have to think that.
You still have to think. I mean, I have to think. I had a couple jobs, like worksite cleanup, whatever, in college, and I did such a poor job, not because I meant to, but because I'm too dumb. My brain doesn't work. Like,
I guess what I mean to say is that there's other jobs that fulfill your uncle's criteria where you're not dealing with smelly garbage.
But that's okay. I
don't like smelly garbage.
That's an easy price to pay.
Really?
I think so.
It's a high price for me, I think.
Yeah.
But the current version doesn't do what your uncle is hoping
I know. You have to just drive around in a truck.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's like a video game for him to see, because, sometimes he'll get, or our trash guy will get 2 cans in one thing. Like, it feels like he's playing a video game.
Yeah, maybe.
Feels like he's challenging himself and overcoming those challenges.
I remember Napkin Apocalypse, Dane Reynolds' wife, like a year ago, posting videos of her kids with the trash man. Like, her kids love the trash man. And so they wait outside. They know which day he's coming. They wait outside. They give him like treats or little prizes or whatever. And that was really endearing to me.
Heartwarming.
Yeah. Something from my youth that I was like, oh yeah, I used to love trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Trucks.
Just a dump truck, fire engine,
all
like trucks. Any truck.
Yeah.
I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Easier times.
Simpler times for sure. Okay, so back to that conversation about resigning yourself.
Sure.
I was thinking about ex-wives. Did you like your ex-wife's family?
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
particularly. Did you?
No. Oh, actually, I liked her family probably more than her at a certain point.
Yeah.
But that idea of like, this is what your next 40 years are going to be like, in hindsight, felt like a prison sentence to me.
And not only that, though, like not only is that what your next 40 years is going to be like, that is the person you married. That is who she or he is going to become.
Yeah, exactly.
More or less.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And at the time, I was resigned to it.
Sure.
Like, it was that complacency that we're talking about. I was just like, this is what life is. Here's my limited kind of options and growth potential because I have these kind of barriers built into this world. And so getting out of that, it's like, oh my God, I had no idea how limiting that worldview was. And it was limited by all of these external factors, you know? It's crazy.
It does feel
feels
good.
like a gift.
Oh my goodness. It's like such a breath of fresh air when it really hits you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also feels like a world away.
Yeah.
Like that time in my life feels like a different life entirely.
Sure.
You know, it's crazy how that works. How many chapters there are.
Barbarian Days.
Let's talk about Surfer Magazine closing.
Let's do.
So, I mean, it's weird that was 5 days ago or so, and it feels like ancient news.
I mean, for everything now, I know it's cliche to say, but everything feels like ancient news.
It really does.
It's just the
news cycle.
News cycle is just whipping.
Well, it also feels almost, I hate to, I don't want to belittle it, but it almost feels insignificant because all of the politic news is in the news feed all day, every day. And it feels like there's real world implications.
Well, but I mean, also, I think that there is a ton of other news happening, right? There's a ton of sports news happening.
Yeah, maybe.
There's a ton of political news happening. There's not a lot of surf news happening. It's like in COVID, surf, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, just nothing's really happened. You know, there's been those couple things. So now when something does happen, like, I don't know, it feels like you burn out on it really quick. And then it's like, I don't know, treating surf, even though surf news isn't happening rapidly, I treat surf news like I treat the other news, where I'm just consuming, chewing. And so I'll get over it real quick. Like, Surf Magazine done. Okay.
This is arguably the biggest surf news story of 2020.
Sure.
This is the Bible of surfing, Surfer Magazine. Been around for 60
plus, I think.
Years, yeah.
I think officially 60, but I think he started it as something else. I don't know. I think
it was founded in 1960 officially, so it'd be 60 years on the nose. John Severson, we're talking about, has furloughed all of its staff as of Friday. The company itself hasn't actually made a statement.
No.
But from everybody who works there, they said it's no longer in print. We don't know whether or not there will be a digital kind of footprint left behind that they'll continue to maintenance. They've still been maintaining their Instagram feed or their social feeds. What are your thoughts on this? And do you have any insights into those things?
Yeah, from what I understand, the whole furlough thing is a technical move, so they don't have to pay severance. And so ostensibly it is finished. I think they're trying to figure out where to put Surfer's assets. Do they shift them over to Men's Journal? You know, I guess theoretically they could leave a surfing Instagram or something up. But I think what will happen, all that traffic will get routed into Men's Journal or another title, AMI or whatever AMI is called now has. And yeah, that's like, I think that's what they are, right? That's what they were when they bought David Pecker, is his name. It's amazing. It's an amazing name. Founder or head of AMI. That's just what they are. They're cannibals, right? And so they went in and they cannibalized. And from what I heard, there was great offers or big offers for Surfer, and they were rejected. He just wanted an obscene amount of money for the thing if he was going to sell it. I think it's probably my understanding to do deals like that, to buy and sell magazines and whatnot, the windfall has to be, in order for the work to even make sense to do, you have to get a certain amount of windfall. So, you know, they don't care about the niche audiences who like it. They don't care about any of it. It's just all too small potatoes for what they're dealing with. And I think Pecker's in massive debt. And so, you know, whatever, the $2 million he could theoretically get for Surfer Magazine doesn't fix the 400 million of debt or whatever, you know, whatever the company's in. I think it's just all of it's in a really bad state. So
do you have any idea who would have bought it?
I think there was, from what I heard, I didn't know specifics, but I think there was a few legitimate offers tendered to the group.
Individuals from
I think it both individuals
the surf
and
industry, people
and
that
groups.
we know.
Yeah, I don't know specifics, but there was a couple legit offers.
We understand, I guess, this cannibalization kind of business model, but how do you? So like, it's almost not even worth discussing. Like, should it have happened or shouldn't it have happened? This is the society we're living in. This deal happened over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, where they actually bought it. So we could have all seen the writing on the wall. But how do you feel about it as a writer, as somebody who's worked in print, working for Surfing Magazine, as somebody who grew up reading the magazine? Do you feel a twinge of nostalgia?
Of course. I mean, I think it's sad. I wish that Surfer Magazine could stay on forever, right? Like, I understand the business is such that it's hard to, I don't know, it was always kind of top heavy, I feel, or it just could quite adjust to the digital thing quick enough and stay nimble enough. But it's totally sad. I mean, it was not only an iconic title, the iconic title.
So do we blame the people who sold it? I guess it got bought and sold so many times prior to that.
So many times. Yeah.
That there's no one person to blame.
No.
But it makes you, when we saw this happen with Hurley as well, it makes you cautious about who you get in bed with.
Well, and I think, at some point people are trying to make money. Sure, they're trying to service their niche community. But, I mean, when money comes knocking, then that door gets answered 9 times out of 10. Like, I think there's companies which don't necessarily do everything for the bottom line. Like Patagonia probably,
right.
I don't know Patagonia's business very much, but it doesn't seem like they go all in, always just chasing a dollar.
Yeah.
And Surfer was just stuck on that treadmill and had been for, a decade plus.
Yeah, they had. And I guess you look at somebody like, using Hurley as the example, where he now has enough time left to do something for legacy purposes. And it seems like that's what they're doing with Kandui Group.
Sure.
And not just for family legacy purposes, but
just the brands they want to see in the marketplace and
for the industry.
Yeah.
For surf culture purposes, where they're now making decisions based on what's right for the surf culture. And so with that IPD brand that they're introducing, it's wetsuits and stuff.
Is that the John John one?
No, John John's is
Florence and the Machine.
Florence Marine X.
Yeah.
Flomax. But no, IPD was his surfboard label back in the day. International Pro Designs, I think is what it was. But they're not, it's just IPD that they're using, and it's going to be wetsuits and all. But the point is, that's going to be retail only. So the business model is, we want to support retail.
The surf shop.
We want to support the surf shop. So now they're making, and with Simple Shoes, like they're making these decisions to invest in the culture and the community of people who are actually getting into the water and riding waves every day, and who need quality product at a reasonable price that is dependable, So that seems like a legacy decision, because he probably partnered with Nike with good intention, and Nike, the people that were working there at the time, probably also had the best intention, and they felt like that was a very beneficial deal for everybody involved, including the athletes, including the industry, whatever. But over the course of time, CEOs change, the board changes.
You lose decision-making ability.
And at a certain point, they go, hey, we got to sell the Blue Star Alliance, and Hurley's not involved in that decision on a personal level. So we understand why all these things happen, but with Surfer Magazine, those decisions happened over the course of, like you said, so many decades. And also, by the way, Severson, the magazine far exceeded whatever his expectations were in 1960. The sport grew to a level that he never could have anticipated. And so I think he had no problem, walking away going, I did way more than I ever anticipated doing.
The crazy thing, I think, about a bummer about surf culture in general, especially with the lack of now, or the void left by Surfer and all this, it just seems like the surf participation is way up. All of that surf participation is completely unconnected from the legacy of the culture, or even understanding the culture. It's just people out there liking to slide on wave storms or whatever. Don't know any of the history, don't know any of what makes it special. I mean, we talked about it before, but surfing is, for me, a percentage, obviously doing it, surfing, but a huge percentage is the culture, the lifestyle, the art, the movies, the conversations, all this stuff, where I just think that, the Val absolutely does not care. No. The Val will never educate himself or herself. Why they like surfing is completely different than why I like surfing.
Yeah.
The bummer is that we have to share waves.
Yeah. There's a lot more of them in the lineup than there ever
was
before.
Way more. It's crazy town.
Yeah.
It is choked.
Yeah. My thought on this whole Surfer Magazine thing was, again, related back to Michael Thompson, was I want to see a proper exit.
Yeah.
Like, this was such a pathetic exit where it's the staff the staff who aren't pathetic, by the way, who are all hard workers, who are all core surfers. It's all of them letting us know that they got furloughed, which is also, furloughing them is not a cool move.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's so that they don't have to pay severance packages.
Yeah.
All of it's pathetic. What I want to see, and so maybe Todd Pradanovich's thing of like doing the political post the day before they all get furloughed, maybe that was an attempt at a mic drop. Like, I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. But I want to see somebody go out in a blaze of glory.
It's a real bummer. We always talked about, at surfing at least, or maybe I was the only one talking about it, about the final issue and just blowing it out, right?
Totally.
Like just airing all the dirty laundry.
Totally.
Just all that stuff. I can't even remember what the dirty laundry was back then, but it was one of those where, this final issue, and
that would be amazing.
Yeah, just everything you wanted to know about the surf industry, but we're too afraid to ask.
Right.
Would be,
here's the exact circulation.
Yeah.
Here's the exact amount of revenue.
Yep.
Here's who still owes us money, maybe.
Exactly.
Here's who slept with who.
Yep.
Here's how they got that job. Here's how they got that contract.
How funny would it be?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like 8 people would read it and love it. But yeah, good on Todd Pradanovic, I think, and Pete Terrace and the rest of them, though, for the years that they carried that thing. They carried it far longer than, any reasonable person would have carried it.
Totally. I just interviewed Sean Doherty for the podcast about his acquisition of Surfing World, and it's totally a passion play. It's those guys that you're just talking about. He's the last man standing.
Yeah.
And they're basically like, we can't do this anymore. And he goes, well, I guess I'll take it over. If I'm going to continue to do this for paupers' wages, I should just do it for myself.
Sure.
And so that's what he's ultimately doing.
I really wish that AMI gave that opportunity for somebody to take over Surfer.
There's no chance.
Of course not. It's a whole different ball of wax. But yeah, rip Surfer, and bravo to Sean Doherty for making that decision, because honestly, it's a passion project. I don't know that there's really any financial incentive, because even if the thing is humming and like firing on all cylinders, he's not going to get rich doing it. Yeah.
Like
the magazine,
like all of us at this point, all of us could just go work in that office that we're talking about and make more money.
I mean, I wish. Who's going to hire me?
If you hired a professional to put together your resume, they could.
There's no
position
way.
It in such a way.
My resume hasn't had a meaningful.
You got books on your resume. You got public speaking stuff. Like, people would hire you. I don't know, as a consultant or as I don't know what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Something. People get paid for way stupider things.
Well, if anybody needs consulting out there, just hire my new business.
What's your new business?
Nothing.
Okay.
Charlie Smith Consulting.
We also owe a shout out to Album. We forgot to hit him at the beginning of the show. Fantastic. But we are at Album Surfboards right now.
Always so kind. I've been ripping my album lately.
Have you?
I've been surfing well.
Because you got that week down in Cabo.
I think so. For the first time in a long time, I've had like 3 or 4 surf sessions where I got out of the water and thought, I surfed well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Which board are you riding of theirs?
I have a gray 20.
Do you know which model?
No, it's just a 20 with a little box in the back, but I ride it as a 20. It's like it's probably 5'11". Yeah. I think it's a loaner. I was supposed to return it, I think a year ago.
Yep. I know. I remember how that works. All right, let's go to commercial break.
Let's do it.
Come back with Barrel or Not. All right, Chaz, we're back at Album Surfboards.
Exciting.
Anything interesting? Quarantine content that you've been watching? Television?
I've been watching Away, that one on Netflix. That's not particularly good. Kimetsu no Yaiba. It's a Japanese show.
No
cartoon.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah.
Nothing great.
Kimetsu no Yaiba is good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you watch American Murder?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Is that the
new documentary?
Oh, yeah, no. I do know what you're talking about, but I haven't watched it.
I think maybe it was in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's really good. Dude kills his wife and kids.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about it is the filmmakers didn't actually shoot any new footage. It's all cobbled together between posts that his wife uploaded to social media and the police cam footage from when they're entering the crime scene and then news footage from all of the reports.
Is there enough to make it compelling?
More than enough. More than enough. To see the wife's happy life that she's been uploading with her kids and all the stuff that they're doing, and then cutting that together with
the reality. He was cheating and stuff, right?
Yeah. And so what was most kind of, I don't know, alarming about it is they did have a happy life.
Sure.
And he was a good husband up until killing his wife and kids. And I mean, and I say that and we laugh, but it's like in the past, you used to be able to identify criminals.
Yeah.
Because they had tattoos like you have.
I know.
Neck tattoos. And there, or maybe they didn't, but you would talk to the neighbors and the neighbor goes,
creepy.
Yeah, that guy was creepy. Like he dressed like he was a goth, or he had 20 cats, or there was weird smells coming out of his house or whatever. Like this was just a normal guy. And by the way, cheating on your wife, also tons of normal people have done that since the beginning of time, cross cultures, and never murdered their wife because of it.
And their children.
This is the most disturbing thing ever, is that this guy looks normal and also doesn't have a good reason, because cheating isn't a good reason to kill your wife and kids.
No.
But ultimately that was the reason. As he kind of has explained it, he makes ultimately a confession to his dad when he's being interrogated. The interrogators leave the room and he talks to his dad. And kind of the reason that he gives, and the reason that he's given since, is he felt trapped because he has a new girlfriend that he wants to have a life with, and he didn't see any way out of it. So he kills his wife and then his kids. And so that is the most alarming part of it, is that, and to me, it's reflective of like, we're so sick as a culture that there's this disconnect, a disconnect between just humanity, like feeling actual feelings.
I mean, he must have been a sociopath or something.
But the version of sociopath now is not as identifiable as it used to be. The line between living what looks like a normal life and then doing something sociopathic is a very thin line now.
Yeah.
Did you see the other news story about Rick Moranis?
I saw he got slugged on the street in New York City.
Which is a trend. This is a viral trend of running up to a complete stranger.
Punching them in the face.
And punching them in the face without them, like coming from behind and throwing, what is that called? That type of a punch?
A sucker punch?
Sucker punching people on the city street. So Rick Moranis, presumably the sucker puncher didn't know that it was even Rick Moranis, but there is security cam footage because it was in front of a store of Rick Moranis just walking down the street. Somebody runs up, punches him in the face, boom, out cold, hits the ground. This is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. Yeah. I can't even watch the footage. It's so disturbing. Like, we are so sick as a culture to where this is somehow acceptable, or just the way that people are acting out the sickness is by doing these vile things to either strangers or to your wife and kids without understanding the consequence in advance.
Or caring.
But I think like in jail, that husband probably now understands some level of consequence and feels remorse.
I mean, I read that he has like his children's pictures, next to his jail bunk or whatever, and is sad every day or whatever.
Right.
I mean,
he's crying in court. He's crying his eyes out. There's some version of remorse that he's feeling.
He's a youngish guy, right?
Yeah.
He's like 30 something.
Maybe late 30s, early 40s, but yes.
So he's got a solid 30 plus years of thinking about that every day.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you're going to really be able to think about.
But what has infected us to where he couldn't make that connection prior to doing the action?
I don't know.
It's disturbing.
But that's what makes it imminently watchable TV, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I think you think, what would I do? Maybe. Or clearly I'm never going to murder anybody. But like this guy did. Creepy.
So disturbing on so many levels.
Have you kept on with The Vow?
Yes.
I got off The Vow.
Why?
I got bored. I saw where it was going, and then I felt that their storytelling was not very taut. Like they were dragging stories out like for a whole episode that they should have told in 10 minutes.
I thought exactly about that, and I think the explanation is it's easy when you see those headlines to discount the women.
Yeah.
And to say, if you let yourself get branded and raped,
sure,
then you're crazy. So I think what they were doing was humanizing the women. Spending an entire episode to humanize, to understand how you end up in a headspace where you let somebody brand you and have sex with you.
I got it.
But I agree with you. I think they shot themselves in the foot with it.
Yeah, it became too, I think, cumbersome.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking with it because I want to see
the end.
Well, we could just Google the end, but I want to see Keith Raniere pay his dues.
Yeah.
I really want to see a contrition from him.
I don't think he's contrite.
Well, I don't think he is either. And in this recent episode, I don't know if you're aware of this, they go into his backstory, and he was running a direct marketing scheme prior to NXIVM.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's a multi-level marketing guy.
And fully stealing, like ripping tons of people off and not paying his taxes.
Yeah.
So he has this decade-long legacy of doing this prior. And then he washed himself clean of that and came out as a guru.
Yep.
Yeah.
NXIVM.
Also disturbing. All of this is so disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we're watching.
It's the world we're living in, sadly. Okay. Barrel or nah.
Let's do it.
Publicly endorsing a presidential candidate.
Nah. I think it's totally lost any of its original purpose. I think, back in the day, it was important for the New York Times or whatever, or, big papers of record to, I don't know that it was important for them, but it made sense for them to go on the record, right? Saying, this people, you like us, we're doing the hard yards for you. Now it's just silly. Like everyone has their own opinion. There's so much news out there. Everybody's just micro researching their own weird stuff in their own weird feed. So to have, Surfer Magazine, clearly it's silly, to endorse a candidate, but New York Times, any of them, it's silly, I think.
So the Surfer Magazine, for the first time in their 60 years, endorsed Biden and Kamala Harris. The day before that, the staff was all furloughed. Why do you think it's silly for them?
I mean, I just think who cares? Like everybody, you're putting your brand on, this is the candidate for you, is just asinine.
I don't think they said this is the candidate for you. They were saying,
sure,
if we want, like as surfers, we have a responsibility towards environmental kind of protection. And that's why we're supporting.
I get it. But I suppose I think that if your intent is really to get people to vote for Biden and Harris, there's ways to go about that. I think what you do is exacerbate and alienate it probably does more harm than good to the actual candidate. I don't think very many people read Surfer's post and think, you know what? That's right. That's true. I'm going to vote Biden Harris because they represent my whatever as a surfer. I think what you do is get a lot of people who say, screw you for trying to tell me what to think.
I thought long and hard about exactly what you just said. I don't think that there was anybody who was so offended. There was tons of comments of people hugely offended by it. I don't think any one of them stops reading Surfer if they were reading Surfer prior.
I think they
stops following if they were following
I think
prior.
they lost thousands upon thousands upon thousands of followers.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact they did. Like, it was the social media director, I think, was profoundly disturbed by the precipitous drop.
Okay. Now is a more divisive time than ever, firstly. So it's really surprising to me that people get that triggered by that statement that the Surfer magazine made. And I'm saying this agnostic of my own views. I'm just saying, like, how could that trigger you? But that's the times that we're living in, where that it is that divisive. So that's kind of bothersome to me that people get that triggered by somebody just having a different view than them.
Of course.
But I do think that they do have some level of influence. So them making the statement, I do think actually influences. Look, if somebody is just maybe apathetic, maybe agnostic, maybe on the fence, and they have 5 of the publications that they follow, maybe it was the New York Times and Surfer Magazine or whatever, all endorsing something, how could that not influence them in some way? If they go, wow, these various things that I follow and that I appreciate and like all feel this way about something, maybe I should consider feeling that way too.
I mean, I think there's probably 4 people in the United States that way. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody, all the polls, not that the polls are, whatever with the polls, but I think that most people are fairly made up. I think the margins of people not made up is so tiny. And so, this point, and so I get Surfer, if they wanted to make a loud clang, then that's great. But if they actually really wanted to get or help get Biden and Harris elected, I think there would have been and could have been far better ways to do it than an Instagram post. I bet they turned more people off or got more people violently angry. Totally silly to get violently angry about that.
Right.
Than they did makes one person stop and say, well, I didn't think about it that way.
Mutual friend of ours was texting me, ranting about, I want surfing just to be fun. So regardless of who they endorse, they should not make a political statement because surfing is my reprieve from all of those things.
I mean, I completely disagree with all of that.
Too.
Me too. Everything is everywhere. Religion, politics, it's all everywhere now. And to try to keep stuff blocked off, I think you just lose. I mean, Beach Grit again. We had our, the vice presidential debate up last night, comment live, where if we can't talk about stuff here in the fun place, I think we can talk about it more enjoyable and more enjoyably than by mushing all our food onto one plate. I'll keep doing that. I'm refusing to. Surfing is a place to talk about politics, and just don't be such a triggered baby all the time.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think that it is the place to talk about it, but it's not the place to shout at each other and flip each other off about it. It's the place to have dialogue and debate about it. So it's fully okay to incorporate those two things. And I also like the idea of that we all care now.
Yeah.
We didn't care 10 years ago. And so we should care. You should care who's running the country. So I think that I grew up with a certain level of apathy in regard to politics because I felt like it never really affected my life.
Sure.
And maybe now, just as you get older and you're paying taxes, you start to care. But this is everybody cares at this point because of kind of the absurdity of a lot of the show that we've seen. Anyways, so you're not going to publicly endorse a candidate?
No.
Chas Smith as a brand is not going to publicly endorse a candidate. Because your wife takes the opposite stance.
My wife definitely takes the opposite stance, and great for her.
She's eager to tell.
Very eager.
And to try to sway influence.
Great for her. I know that if I was going to endorse somebody, again, it would be very much worse for that person. So if I was going to endorse, I'd probably endorse the opposite person that I was going for.
Yeah.
just knowing that I'm going to be a toxic cancer on any one of their campaigns.
People do the opposite of what you do.
Yeah.
All right. Barrel or nah, taking a doctor's advice.
This is a good one. I'm going to say this is a blanket. Like, I either have to take a doctor's advice 100% of the time or 0% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is clearly related to a lot of news stories. We're all taking doctor's advice ever since this COVID outbreak. And it's kind of come to a point with the president this last week as he's contracted COVID. But yes, it's a blanket statement.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no doctor's advice for me. If I have to have one or the other, I feel like I've got a pretty good sense of what's going on.
Until you get sick.
Sure, of course. And then it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? I mean, you could take all your doctor's advice. Oh, okay, I totally appreciate doctors. Love doctors doing the Lord's work out there. Very smart people. But I also think that they're myopically focused oftentimes on anymore. There's not just a GP or a general practitioner is pretty rare. Everybody is hyper focused on their specialties. And so you have all these people who are hyper focused on a specialty where so much of life is about stepping back and seeing the big picture. That's where I think medicine has gone a little haywire in its hyper specialization. And then also this feeling that doctors know everything. So if a doctor says something, then that automatically is correct and true. Even if the doctor has only been ever focusing on this one little thing for a long time and has no idea what context that goes in.
Stepping back from the microscope helps.
I mean, and I wish so bad that our health system just had, was way more general, right? Like that it was, and also let's get weird, like get some kinesiologists in there and some, whatever, chiropractors, all the wackos, like mix it all up together. I think, I am not a fan of industrialized medicine knows best. So
our system is so broken that it's hard to not answer this question through the lens of what you and I experience. And in regard to your hyper specialized doctors, I had a buddy 1 month ago get a rotator cuff surgery. Surgery went well. Came home, he started getting this little rash. And the rash got significant, spread down his arm, started bubbling into boils, like blisters. And he's taking photos, sending them to the dermatologist, sending them to the surgery center that did his thing. Ultimately, everybody was saying, go talk to the surgery center, said, go talk to the dermatologist. Dermatologist said, go talk to the surgery center. Yeah. Everybody was pointing him different directions. And each day it was getting worse. He ultimately ended up at Hoag and spent multiple nights there. I think 2 or 3 nights.
Did he have a staff or something?
It was, it was like staff. It wasn't staff specifically, and I forget what it was called. But if I showed you pictures of this allergy, your mind would be blown. Yeah. It was disgusting and life-threatening. Yeah. And Hoag, they got him in, and I mean, he could not get somebody, and he has wealth, he has great access, and he could not get admitted. He went to a different hospital. They kind of gave him the runaround. And ultimately, it all became, we don't want to be liable. Yeah. This wasn't our problem, so we don't want to intake you because then we'll be liable for somebody else's problem.
Crazy.
And Hoag, thankfully, is the best of the best. And they basically, not only treated it, they fixed it. They identified what the allergy was so that he can avoid it in the future, all that sort of stuff. But we really had to analyze it and go, imagine if you didn't have all of the access and resource that he had. You end up dying.
I mean, it's crazy. That's why, knock on wood, like every day I'm happy just to, try not to get sick. But I truly, and I felt this way my whole life, I've always rather if something's going to happen to me, I prefer to be overseas, even Egypt and stuff. Like I remember getting stitches in Egypt or spending a week in a hospital in Jordan and just thinking like this would have broken me back home.
Yeah. Here's your bill for $82 or whatever the number is that you can afford to pay for the work that we did.
And for like a real general, like I had amoebic dysentery in Jordan. Like they knew it's not like it's super specialized. They knew what to do. I was on IV for 7 days. I think the bill, 7 days in the hospital, I think my bill was $400 or $500.
Right.
Like
exactly
where, stitches in Egypt, like 30, it was like $23 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
I talked to friends of my parents who are retirement age who go down to Baja to get dental work done.
Sure.
And the doctors who are working down there live in San Diego. They go over the border to do their dental work because they know getting paid $100 for a cleaning cash is better than charging $800
to the
in the
insurance.
US to the insurance that takes 6 months to get paid.
Yeah.
And in the end, I only get $120 out of the insurance that I billed $800 for. Yeah, and there's just endless examples of all of that stuff. But the flip side of that is in terms of taking advice from a doctor, these doctors are specialists that have studied something for 40 years and they've seen 10 to 20 patients a day about this thing for 40 years. And then somebody comes and asks them for advice and they can identify it clear as day instantly. And then that person who gets the advice from them goes, yeah, but I also looked it up on the internet and the internet told me this opposite thing.
Yeah.
And the doctor's just shaking their head going, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Except how neat, that's the thing. Like if something is something is open and closed or
Cut and dry.
But I think very rarely are ailments so clean, right? I mean, if you break a bone, you go in, you get an x-ray, bada bing, bada boom, set it, cast it, you're done, right? But if you're like, just have a general malaise or feel bad or, where do you even start, right? Like that's where I think people get, or that's where I am always like, I don't even want to begin because who do you go to?
Well, so you and I know our bodies and we think like, well, I'm not going to take the doctor's advice because I know best because it's always only been these general malaise that I can connect to either my diet or not getting exercise or somebody coughed on me and they had a cold, whatever. As soon as you get cancer, you take the doctor's advice.
Yeah. But do you?
You take multiple doctors' advice. I get multiple opinions.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about cancer. I don't know how to cure my own cancer. Like those are the things that I would take advice for.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger issue that you and I have identified is that we're distrusting right now of doctors. That's the larger public sentiment too, is when you hear the doctor in regard to COVID, when you hear doctors come out on public platforms and start discussing, our immediate question is, who's funding this?
Yeah.
Who do they work for? What political party are they associated with?
For sure.
And we run it through all those filters. So doctors have lost a lot of public trust.
I think experts in general have lost a lot of public trust.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's problematic.
Yep.
We need to get back to a place where we're able to trust. And we also, in terms of people we don't trust, politicians are at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Sadly, lawyers are number 2. Doctors fall kind of lower than that on the list, but this is a sad, sad reflection of where we're at.
It's true.
And even enforcement, like police enforcement, we don't trust anymore.
No. Don't trust nobody anymore.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Trust is gone.
Totally. Okay, so
I'm not
taking a
trusting.
doctor's advice? No. Barrel or not, sending your kid to boarding school.
Oh, I'm so barrel.
Really?
I mean, the idea of it, for sure, especially if like a European boarding school where they go and they, get refined in some way that, not for a elementary school or even junior high, but I think if
teenage years.
Yeah. If my child, like if there was some school somewhere that was a boarding school and she was into it, I'd be so down with it.
So it's funny, boarding schools played a prominent role in our youth. Like lots of movies came out where the kid went away to boarding school. I feel like I heard stories of friends going like acting out and they had to go to military school or something. This is a news story this week. Paris Hilton is trying to have a boarding school that she went to shut down because she says that their practices there were
inhumane.
Yeah, basically. Which to me, it just sounded like they were applying discipline to her.
Yeah.
And her version of discipline felt like it was a human rights offense.
Paris.
Of course, you know, but the fact that this even came up in the news, I was like, man, I haven't heard about a boarding school in 20 years.
Well, I got you another one that just came up. Apparently, Jeffrey Epstein gave a ton of money to a boarding school up in Michigan somewhere. And yeah, like, so, you know, the creepy connection, the grooming of young people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boarding schools twice.
I was thinking, as I thought about all those examples of boarding schools, it was only ever to give kids the discipline that the parents weren't able to enforce.
Yeah.
And I think that it's probably, first of all, they're expensive. So it means that the parents have some level of means, which probably means they're working hard. So they're not in the house, which is why the kid never got the discipline. So I'm anti-boarding school. Just based on that assessment, I'm thinking your kids are your priority. Stay home, discipline your kid. I have a puppy now, so I'm an expert on raising other things. Enough discipline and consistency will net you the results that you want.
But I suppose when I think of boarding school, I think of an arts boarding school, right? I think of them providing something that could not be provided at home. Like you're dancing, 8 hours a day with the best instruction. You're basically living, sleeping, and eating this thing. And if my child is passionate about, something to that degree, then I think boarding school, I'm not just talking about a school. I'm talking about like a specialized boarding school.
So that's different. I think if your kid has a proclivity towards dance and can become a ballerina and you can send them to a school that, then certainly do that.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. I'm not talking about school. Okay. Who cares about school?
I just think a boarding school is always discipline related for some reason in my head. And maybe it isn't. And maybe some of it is also academic. Like if you want to get into Oxford, you should go to this boarding school.
Did you ever what about like the Dead Poets Society? You never wanted to be part of a hoity-toity, like
I didn't
dress up for dinner, go walk to the commons, shuffle through the fall leaves with your male friends.
It's so far removed from the way that I was raised. That was never an option. Like public school was the only option.
Yeah.
And then getting into, I was like the first person in my family that actually got a 4-year degree from college. So there was no thought about Ivy League versus private school versus state school versus anything else. It was just, if I went to, my dad was going to pay for college no matter where I went, which was a huge advantage over everybody else that had come from our family. And so that was the best case scenario. But no, I had no thoughts of any of those.
Didn't want to go.
It wasn't even in my awareness.
What about like Scent of a Woman?
What part of that was?
Remember that's where he goes to boarding school.
I don't remember that.
But he's like poor, and so all the rich kids are going skiing on vacation, and he can't because he's poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. Never had any of those thoughts in my head.
Looks good.
I also wasn't academically inclined.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I was intelligent. I just wasn't academically inclined.
Surf.
But in hindsight, I wish that I was. And also, I'm not against it for my own kids.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't send them there for disciplinary reasons. But if there was a private school where like they do get better education, better access to opportunity when they get out, I would absolutely consider it.
I think only the arts for me.
Okay.
Only about dance, singing, music, painting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Barrel.
On an artistic boarding school.
You're going Barrel on boarding school. I'm going nah.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Paris Hilton needs to toughen up.
She does.
That's the result of all of this is Paris Hilton. Whatever, by the way, basic discipline from my youth is now viewed as a fireable offense
it's torture
from authorities. Which is insane.
My goodness.
This is not a good thing.
Yeah. That's why we're all triggered snowflakes.
Now I feel like I need to send everybody needs to go to boarding school.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
Yeah. Toughen up. Buttercups.
All right. Shout out albumsurf.com. Thank you for hosting. We're glad to be back.
So fantastic.
How was your vacation?
Great.
Good. Everything good since you've been back?
Everything's good.
Everybody's well. Nobody got COVID through their travels.
Nope.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Beachgrit.com, surfsplendorpodcast.com. Chaz, will we be back next week?
We sure will be.
Awesome. All right. Until then,
get Barrel. Thanks for moving it to Thursday.